I got to tell you guys kind of an interesting story. A story about how I actually met Bob. I've always been a car junkie, and a car that I always really liked was the Buick Reatta. It's a little stubby thing, two-seater, but with 3,800 snappy little car. Well, there was one for sale online, so I went to the old interweb, and I come up, and the guy answered me, and he's like, yeah, it's still for sale, and he gives me an address and says, meet me there. So I meet him there, and it just happens to be Bob. Well, we got to talking, and I wasn't all that interested in the Reatta. There was just a few things about it that I wanted to race it, that it didn't quite fit. But sitting right next to the Reatta was a Mazda RX-7 convertible. And I couldn't leave with nothing, so I bought that. And this is a story that I'm not even sure about. We haven't talked about this probably since it happened. We were bringing that RX-7 home from Bob's house here to our place. We had it on his aluminum trailer, and he had a tilt trailer. Well, we got it into my yard, and now I got to set the scene. We lived on a 4-lane road, very, very busy. We used to have to wait 5-7 minutes just to pull out of our own driveway. So we pull in, truck, trailer and all, and we go to unload it, and here I'm not quite thinking about it too much, and it might have had something to do with, I think that was the first time that we had our 50/50s together. It might have had something to do with it, because I unhooked the straps on it, didn't think about the fact that it was a stick and it was in neutral, and I started to crank the crank to lessen the angle to allow the car to roll off easier. Well, guess what? It rolled off easier all by itself. With nobody in it, headed right for that 4-lane road, and it was extremely busy. And what reminded me of this story is that car rolled up and it came within 2 feet of hopping the curb and going right under that traffic, but it had just enough of a slope to make it roll gently right back down into my driveway, which was just, it was like angels stopped it and pushed it back. And the part that reminded me so much of it was that we had tried these for the first time, and after it was all over with, I said, man, that was pretty exciting. That made my heart pound. How about you, Bob? And Bob told me, he said, you know what the worst part about it was? And I was like, what? He said, I spilled my drink. You remember that, Bob? that was the first time I met you, and that was the first car that I bought from you. I think that was 12 years ago. And we've been pals ever since. And just like we're kindred hearts because we're both total motorheads. And the fact that Bob's been through some rough times, a couple operations, had his hip replaced and had some trouble with it. And if you ask him, he might not tell you, but the reason that he had so much trouble with it is because he wouldn't stay off of it. He just got it fixed and was barely even home. And I come over here and he's sitting on the floor with a pry bar, prying down on the A-frame of this car, trying to get the ball joint line back up. I believe that's what he was doing. And I asked him, I said, hey, Bob, do you think that this might have anything to do with you messing your hip up repeatedly? And he just gave me that grin, like that right there. But there's a few things that I want you to come on over here, if you don't mind. By the way, thank you, the mean chick, thank you. Show yourself. Tell everybody hi.
I didn't do it, hold on. I don't know how to reverse
Turn
it.
the camera around.
Am I on now?
Yes, you are. Everybody knows the mean chick. Today she's just here helping out, and she's going to help out not just with the camera, but she'll be helping me take parts off that car right there also. Like I told you earlier, it's not a coincidence that I bought an MGB because I know how much Bob likes him, and I've helped him put a few motors in them and stuff. And but it was a coincidence because I did not know that he had a parts car, which is very, very cool. And there's some stuff like right over here that I'd really like to show you. This is the stuff that actually started out my friend's career. Now I want you to get a good shot of that. Can you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Now Bob, tell them a little bit about this car.
Well, I always adored the cars. I was a member of a local sports car club. At that time I was fresh out of the service, the Air Force, and I got a taste for a girlfriend's car over in England. She had an Austin Haley. What the hell did I tell you? Oh, that car belonged to a couple that they wrote a sports car column in the local newspaper.
That's pretty cool. Do you remember the name of where the paper was?
Phil and B.B. Thompson.
Phil and B.B. Thompson.
Bought the car from them, $1,500.
Do you remember when that was? Or close?
Around 60.
Around 60? So that was actually quite a bit of money then. Just put it on the side.
On the right, just push it on the top. Just push it down.
There you go. That'll make it much better. Hey, sound quality. So, now,
So I
back
entered
then,
in-
$1,500 was a lot of money.
Well, we scrounged in the first life. She was an aficionado too. I met her at a sports car race.
Well, that's perfect.
She loved racing. And as you would have it, that's the same reason she divorced me.
You almost made me lose my drink, Bob.
I
That
finally
sounds
got
like
to
a
race
woman.
in the 12-hour race at Sebring, and that's when she said, "No, I'm done."
Well, now, was it because you spent too much time racing and not
Yeah.
with her, or because it was dangerous?
No.
She didn't care about the danger.
Well, she knew I was capable.
Right.
But anyhow, I entered it in Gymkhana.
We're right by the airport, if you can't tell. And I'm not going to tell you what airport it is. It's not in Braden, Kentucky, and this isn't Cleaterville. But anyway, now the jet's over, so Bob can continue on his story.
So I remember a good friend of mine was the president of the sports car club, and he said, "Bob, you're mopping up racing in Gymkhanas. You got to race against other cars." I said, "Well, how do I do that?" "Well, you join the SCCA, you go to driver's school." I said, "Great, that's all I got to do." He said, "No, we got to put a roll bar in." So he had a length of pipe. We bent it around a tree.
Ha!
Cut it off. Like you can tell, it's kind of just a hoop.
That's the actual bar?
No.
It's just like that.
They made me change it.
Yeah, we had a car that we made the mistake of using water pipe for a roll bar, and the first time it got hit, that thing sprang into 1,000 pieces. So whatever happened to that first car, and like how many trophies did you win with it? I know you've won trophies with every car you've had.
Well, we took a. I don't know. We took a. Well, it was a 1991 cc Triumph engine, and the quick upgrade was put in a 2.2 liter kit, which was just the pistons and barrels.
Right.
And that's when,
And the barrels are sliding sleeves, right?
yeah.
Okay.
Well, we took it to driver's school at Lime Rock.
And Lime Rock is a very famous road course. If you're not familiar with it, where's it at, Bob?
Up in New York, Upper Connecticut, almost on the border of Massachusetts.
I knew it was the East Coast, but Connecticut. I
Now
couldn't
it's one
remember
of the
state.
renowned, most beautiful race courses in the country. And very, very active. And that driver's school, I did well in the driver's school, and also another lad named Skip Garber,
I've heard that name. I'll bet you've heard that name too.
who actually he actually raced the Formula One car, Watkins Glen. His career,
I did not know
His
that
career
Skip Barber
took
raced
off.
that. Raced that.
And anyhow, at the driver's school, at the end of it, anybody who excelled in the school was allowed to race in the instructor's race, a real race.
Okay.
to race.
How cool is that? I've never heard this story.
It was fun. We did well. The only reprimand I got was I was getting too big for my britches.
I love it. I love it. And I just gotta interject for 1 second because when she was walking around that parts car, if you happen to notice, on the left rear window, there's a very old vintage sticker that says Skip Barber Racing School. So this guy that he went to the racing school with ended up being a race instructor with his own very, very fast Skip Barber School of Racing.
Skip Barber owns Lime Rock.
He owns, okay, there you go. I didn't know that either. But anyway, he's one of the most famous instructors in the world. Some of the best drivers of all in lots of divisions come through that school. And that's just so cool that I've never heard that story about him starting out at the same time. And yesterday when I was here and we were looking at that car, we pointed out that Skip Barber sticker. So that's just really cool.
Well, I was racing the Morgan, of course, and Skip was racing the Turner, which most people have never heard of.
I had never heard about Morgan until I started hanging
It's a
around
little
with him.
fiberglass
Turner.
car with an English Ford engine, and he ended up winning the national championship in that class, in that car.
Skip?
Skip did.
Skip. How cool is that? Now, this isn't the only famous person that Bob has raced with and hung out with and been in the pits and had a few brews with and stuff. In fact, I think he's got a picture of a pretty famous guy right here. And you want to tell him all about this guy?
Well, this is Peter Rebson. He and I both had our Morgans worked on at a little garage in Southport, Connecticut. And Peter came from a very wealthy family. Revlon is pretty well known.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard of that.
Peter Rebson.
I'm not saying I wear it, but
Peter
I've heard of
Rebson,
it.
that's why it says rich and solid. He was wealthy. He never had to race. He always loved to race. He moved on from the Morgan and he got rides in all kinds of cars. Very talented, dedicated racer, not a spoiled rich kid by any means.
That's cool.
He was good buddies with Mark Donahue, who I ended up being very friendly with. We both raced the same car.
Pay attention to some of these names that you hear because they may not be names that you've heard of before, but look them up. These guys were the shit back before.
You should have heard of Mark Donahue because he went on to win Formula One races, 24 Hours of Le Mans, the IROC champion 3 times, International Racing Champion. And Mark was maybe a little more talented than Peter, but I mean, Peter he won everything in this country. He won the Can-Am Championship. And he went on with Formula One with McLaren.
Wow.
And won several races.
F1 McLaren.
Yeah.
It doesn't get much faster than that.
No.
In fact, that was top class. That was the fastest car you could possibly drive back then. There's some other really famous people that you also have hung out with and raced against.
Peter got killed.
Well, that's not good.
No. That was very sad.
We all know the dangers that we
And
take when
Mark-
we strap on that helmet and strap on them belts. We know the danger we're taking.
And Mark Donahue, he and I raced MGs together and Daimler SP250s together, and he was the engineer. If he was any more talented than Peter as a driver, he was an engineer as well. And Penske is the one who took him to Europe to race Formula
That's
One.
big names. Penske, that's big names.
And Mark, unheard of, was the engineer for the car as well as the driver. That doesn't exist.
No.
Engineers, but he was doing double duty, and the last time I saw him before he was killed, he had bags under his eyes. He was
not
Overworked.
looking good.
Overworked. Could have led to his demise, I don't know.
Hey, kitty,
A
kitty,
lot of times
kitty.
it does. A lot of times it does. I mean, I don't know what you're doing, but you're doing it right. Because every time I come over, you're smiling. You're always in a good mood, and you're always working on cars and stuff. So it's just like that's one of the things that I just astounds me and keeps me coming back to hang out.
I remember going to a advanced drivers clinic at Landmark, and just by invitation. And Peter and Mark,
By invitation means if you don't know that if you don't have talent and you're not special, you have to be invited to come to that. You can't just show
it
up.
was just to polish edges and learn more about your craft.
Practice makes perfect.
And
Or less crashes.
after one critique, they critiqued each corner.
And approximately how many corners were in this race course?
Like 8 corners.
8 corners.
Uphill.
And there's a couple people at each corner
Downhill.
critiquing you the way you take each
Yeah.
corner. That's getting into it.
And after one of the sessions, I remember going over and talking to Mark, and he said he had just critiqued the uphill corner. I said, how'd I do? And he said, I haven't seen anybody go up the hill like that since Sweet Savage.
That had to make
That's
you
a
feel good.
compliment.
Oh, obviously, that had to make you feel real good.
And they always bugged me and said, why don't you move up from these little 2-liter cars, man? You got the talent. I said, I'm having a great time.
You're so fun.
I said, I'm winning everything. I'm winning championships.
Why do you want to go and be a little fish in a big pond when you can be a big fish in a little pond?
Going to parties at the track. And,
Oh, yeah.
that was great for me.
One of the stories that
And my first wife, Wanda, she loved it. I remember once, I think it was the 4th of July national race at Landmark, and I said, why don't I give you the pit board and you stand up on the pit wall in your bikini?
Ha! Did she do it?
Yep.
Oh man, I bet you got some attention out of that.
Oh yeah, a lot of pictures taken there. She's a beautiful girl.
Wow. A really good story that you recently told me that you gotta retell is the time that you were racing, and I can't remember who it was against, but they pushed you off the road to try and take your line, and some guys had to literally jump out of the way, and then they called you.
The flag station. It was
Okay, this is the
halfway
story.
down the hill at Bridgehampton.
Okay. And now where was it?
Bridgehampton in Long Island.
Long Island, okay.
Beautiful long course. A lot of elevation changes.
Really cool.
And overlooked the Hamptons and
Ah.
all the islands. Beautiful spot. It's a golf course.
What a waste.
Well, yeah, it's a race at Bridgehampton. I tried to do something with the valve settings because it was a long course at higher RPM. And I screwed up qualifying. I had to start 3 classes back, 3 different classes of cars were
It happened.
and about a good halfway into the race, I saw it. I was catching cars in my class by then. And we went down the hill, right turn, and I saw my buddy's TR3 up in the air. Harvey Thompson, good friend. So I kept going around. I wanted to win this freaking race.
That's a good reason.
Kept going and ended up going against, it wasn't quite the end of the race, it was about maybe 20 minutes, half hour before the end of the race. And I'm catching the lead cars in my class. This turned out to be overall. The production was a fast spot. And I had kept slowing on that corner where my buddy was up and there was all kinds of medical stuff around.
Yeah, because it wasn't a full course caution, right?
Yeah. So I kept slowing and said, "Is he okay?" Flipped up my visor. And they didn't say, about the third time I slowed, they had a sign, "He's okay, Bob."
Just for you.
So back to the race. The lead car in my class was a 356 Porsche. And we're going down the hill, and I'm catching him. And that's a balls out straightaway. Because you're going
High
into
gear
a
floor.
right-hander at the end. And I'm catching him. He's towards the middle of the track. I'm on his left. And he keeps moving over and moving over.
He's trying to pinch you
Plenty
off.
of plenty of room, but he wasn't about to let me by. We finally touched. I went off, 2 wheels in the dirt and gravel, and the flag people were running out of the way. They thought I was going to kill them.
I would run too.
And I got by. I outbraked them into the corner, and I was going.
So even with all the crap that he gave you, you blew by him anyway.
Yeah. So I won the race.
How cool is that? You started 3 divisions down and won the overall fastest.
What was funny was we're up celebrating, having a drink on the big deck, trophies and all, and I hear over the loudspeaker, "Bob Kilpatrick, report to the timing stand." I said, "Oh shit." I said, "Well, I won the race. I don't care what they
Right.
do." So I go into the timing stand, and I'll leave his name out. But the Porsche driver was there.
Because this is a famous driver that,
The driver.
this is why he's leaving the name out.
How the hell was he? Oh, Charlie Rainville was the chief of
Tech.
the whole race. He was race chairman. And he said, "Bob, this fellow," forget his name, I don't want to remember it. He's protesting you for reckless driving.
And this is the guy that was pushing you up. Okay.
And he said, "I was maintaining my line." You don't maintain your line going down a wide straightaway. And Charlie says, "Well, I don't have the report from the timing people because the communication was not." So Charlie says, "Are your cars right up here in front of the area?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Let's bring them together. Let's see. I understand there was contact."
Yeah. Understandable.
So we put the cars together and matched the car match, and Charlie says, "It would appear that Mr. Kilpatrick was ahead of you." And then I start to rise the foot off the ground.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
realize this is bullshit.
This is looking good for me.
So the phone rings, his phone. He answers it and says, I understand. Yeah, okay, thank you very much. He said, "Well, the flag station has their communications back, which you guys almost destroyed. And it would appear that, I don't know what he put it, I think he said, do you both have national driver's license? SCCA license?" I said, "Yes, I carry mine at all times." I said, "Mine's with my stuff in the bag." He said, "No matter." He said, "Mr. Federer, can I see your license?" "That's the license." I said, "Yeah, it's a valid license." He said, "Not for a while." He said, "It'll be a while before you have to use that again."
So the judging obviously went in your favor.
And they said, "Bob, go finish your drink." Federer He says, well, I see I'm not going to get anywhere. And he starts to walk away. Charlie grabs him by the scruff of the neck and says, I'm not through with you.
That was racing.
That was fun.
That was racing. Well, while we're in here, I can't help but to get up and point out the fact that there is still 4 small bore race cars right in front of you. Bob's not done. In fact, he's far from done. The main chick's going to give you a look at them. Maybe even a little glance at the first car. And then we'll see if we can't start at one end and get Bob to just tell us a little bit about these cars. Well, actually, we didn't get to this. This is a very important picture, too. You want to talk about this one a little bit, Bob?
Yeah, that's my first win in the MGB. I can't remember when it was.
Look at that grin. That's your first win.
Yeah.
That is so cool. That is a treasure
I
right
won a
there.
race in the Morgan, but that was
But this is the first race win in this car.
in the MGB, yeah.
Now,
That's my good-looking first wife.
now let me ask you.
She doesn't look unhappy there.
No, she looks very happy. Now, I know this is a strange question because this, to me, I mean, have you ever had a race car that you didn't win in?
Yeah. Nova Courier. That was in between hip operations, and it was a very uncomfortable car for him. It was quick, but heel and toe were impossible for me.
Well, don't feel bad. I mean, I've had a race car that I didn't win anything in. I spent a whole month getting one ready for short track championships, and I went out and I think I started like 5th on the outside. They dropped a green flag. Within 3 laps, there was a yellow flag and a crash, and I come out in the lead. So they drop the green flag, I floor it, and it explodes right there. Grenaded the motor. Everybody went right by me. Never won in that car. But anyway, now this car has never been raced yet. I've actually been helping Bob put this together. Now this is something that I'm sure you've never seen before. This is an MGB GT sporting a 2.8 liter Chevy engine V6 out of an S10 with a sideways Holley 4412. So this right here is going to be a little screamer. Bob hasn't got to race it yet, but he will be racing it. He will be racing it fairly soon.
Because it's got a modified engine, I can't race it in production car classes.
No, because it has to be an MG.
So I lightened it. It's got a carbon fiber roof, a carbon fiber.
Yes, yes. I
Considerably
actually
lighter than a BGT.
even if you check back here,